Hello, wherever you are on our illustrious, dynamic planet named Earth. I wish you a fantastic and fabulous day wherever you are. My topic for today is something that we all know about, a form of wear on our bodies that exists in every country on Earth. It does not matter if your country is a major industrial player or you're living in a lowly third world country. In every country, for the most part, except if you're some tribe, I forgot the name of that tribe in India that's totally cut off from civilization, they are the only ones who I know who do not wear my topic tennis shoes. Yes, my topic for the day are about tennis shoes. I'm not giving no scientific blow blah blow about what they made of, where they originated from, what was the first historical recorded pair of tennis shoes. No, I'm just giving my own personal take from my brief existence on our lovely planet Earth. I grew up in the 1970s and the 1980s. So I'm going to give my own personal take on the dynamic, evolving, changing tennis shoe industry. One thing I definitely know, when I was growing up as a child, no adult over the age of 30 ever wore tennis shoes. I'm going to say it again. When I was a child in the 70s and in the 80s, from my simple recollection, all adults wore shoes. No adult, from what I can recall, ever wore tennis shoes. Hence, back in the 70s and the 80s, tennis shoes, or sneakers, as they are affectionately called. And before I go on, leave in the comment section why you think they are truly called sneakers. I know the answer. But I'm not going to open my big mouth. So in the comment section, tell me why you think also, aka tennis shoes, are really called sneakers. You can also leave in the comment section too, why in the world are they called tennis shoes? But let me get back to what I was saying before I digress into the vernacular of sneakers and tennis shoes. As I stated originally, no adults would not dare be seen wearing tennis shoes in the 70s and 80s. And I don't even have to stop at the 70s and 80s. Way before the 70s and 80s and the 1960s. I wasn't alive in the 1960s. I was just a little teeny baby. I was born in 1968, so I was just an infant at the close of the 1960s. I was an infant I was born in 1968, so I was an infant. But if adults did not wear tennis shoes when I was growing up in the 70s and 80s, they definitely did not wear no tennis shoes in 1960 and 1950 or 40 and on and on and on, back down the timeline. In American history, at least, or the American society, they did not wear tennis shoes. When I was a child, for all I know, there was basically two types of tennis shoes. They was called Jack Marcel's or fish heads, or aka smiley shoes. I'm going to say that one more time. From my recollection as a child, I only can recall two types of tennis shoes, definitely in the 1970s. Jack Marcel's fish heads, also known as smileys. When I was growing up, since adults did not wear tennis shoes or sneakers, they was basically referred to or as a childish gimmick, something that children wear, and if children didn't wear them, a special group of people wore tennis shoes or sneakers. And I will leave that up to you to tell me in the comment section what group of individuals regularly wore tennis shoes or sneakers. But for the most part, your standard adult, your mother, your father, over the age of 30, your aunt and uncle, over the age of 30, your employer, they did not wear tennis shoes. As I stated earlier, there was two types. I listed them earlier. And those two types only had certain features to them. They was basically made out of cloth. The tennis shoes in my childhood, they was not made out no fancy dancy material. They was made out of cloth only. What I remember from the 1970s, tennis shoes did not have no rainbow of colors. I basically remember 1 or 2 or 3 colors of my childhood. They was either black, and not no shiny black, just a dull looking black. The majority, 90% of them, was white looking, or they could have been a dusty, dingy gray. That's it. 3 colors. The huge majority was white. Some was a dark color such as black or dark blue, or in rare occasions, they was grayish. That's it. The material was just made out of simple, ridiculous cloth. And the front of those shoes, when in my childhood, they was a hard plastic. So they did protect your toes in case something fell on them. They was almost like workman boots. So my childhood, the tennis shoes was almost like the steel toe boots, because they had that hard and flexible plastic head that could protect your toes in case something dropped in it. Tennis shoes not made like that anymore. The whole shoe in 2019 is basically made of one material. Like I said, one basic materials. Now, from what I recall, the material did start to change in the 1990s. They started to add more color to them, but the color was a boring, uninspiring color. They was bored. Because like for instance, if you look at the Air Jordans that was made, I believe in the 1990s, they did not look all that eye-catching. I think they was red and white, but they had a funny-looking plastic look to them. In the 1990s, and maybe even the 80s, the tennis shoes had a cheap plastic look to them if they was not that cloth material. Cheap-looking plastic material. And that was it. And I think, one more thing, tennis shoes, they was not in vogue then. You either had them or you didn't. Even as a child, you either wore tennis shoes or you wore regular old click-clonk shoes on. We didn't break the door down in 1970, 1980. We did not break the door down to get a special pair of tennis shoes. We was happy for our fish heads, our Jack Marcells, our so-called Converses. We was happy with them. There was no major television advertisement for them. You got what you got, and that was it. But things started to happen, I think, Like I said, I'm not no historian. With the Jordans, I think the Jordans, or maybe even, it was even some shoes before Jordans, like the Nike shoes, and I think I said Converses and some others. But they still, even when they was first made in the 1980s or 1990s, the Nikes, they still was white looking. But they had that funny plastic material on them. They wasn't made out of some of them was made out of cloth, but all of them wasn't. But they still was funny looking. And now, there's one more thing I wanted to say too. I hope it come back to me. Oh, this one to say. But now, when it comes to adults, when I look at pictures on Facebook, Instagram, my relative's picture, you can be 40 years old, 50 years old. In this day and age, we still wearing tennis shoes on. So tennis shoes have come a long way. They they are ingrained in the cultures. Because those of us who grew up in the 70s and 80s, we grew up in the era, or we came in our late 20s, whatever, when tennis shoes became a big deal. So now, the old days are gone where adults just wear shoes now. Adults in their 60s and 50s, maybe 70s, they walking around wearing tennis shoes. And the biggest thing about this era of tennis shoes now, they are so more artistic. And I'm not going to go into no great details about this. They're so artistic, they basically cover every color of rainbows. As a teacher, as an educator, I walk around, I'm amazed by looking at tennis shoes these days. I see students with orange tennis shoes. I see them with yellow tennis shoes. I see them, and when I say orange and yellow, I don't mean the boring looking dry colors from my childhood. No, they are fluorescent colored orange, fluorescent yellow. They eye catchers. They almost look space-like, alien-like. The tennis shoes have come a long way. So that's basically it, my people. My take on the evolution of tennis shoes from being not so in vogue when I grew up to now being in vogue. I definitely know from my little tiny research, it's $1 billion industry. Every athlete basically got their own tennis shoes. It come a long way. Before I go, my good people, before I conclude my little discussion, please name in my comments section what people wore tennis shoes on. It was a special class of people who wore tennis shoes or sneakers. Like I said, the typical adults did not wear them. What people wore the sneakers and tennis shoes? If you like my discussion, please give me a thumbs up. If you would like to subscribe to hear about anything that I find interesting off the top of my head, that's what this channel is about that I made on YouTube. Whatever I find interesting, like tennis shoes, I'm going to talk about anything I find interesting. Please subscribe. If you are already a subscriber and would like to be notified immediately about new content I upload, please click the bell button. In addition, if you think this is a nice discussion to talk about with anyone or to share with anyone, share this on Facebook, Vimeo, G+, Instagram, or Twitter. Thank you, my dear people, for stopping by, and have a wonderful, enjoyable day.